Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are at chapter 36 today. We are talking about technology, time, and space. It is April 7th. Um, so, technology, time, and space. We're getting further into our discussion about technologies from chapter 33 again. And today we're talking, or for this particular lecture, we're talking about time and space and these ideas of time and space as we perceive them in our realities and in our world. So your key terms: telegraph, pivotal, globalized, contemporary, algorithms, and software. And then your discussion questions: what technologies introduced in the past 50 years have affected the way that, this is going to say, the United States and Americans relate to the rest of the world? Question 2, how does having a device, which means you can constantly be contacted and are usually able to access the internet, alter the way you experience time and space? And then question 3, what would you consider to be positive and negative outcomes of always being on constantly connected digital networks? So a little bit further and a little bit more specific into technology today with your discussion questions, or with this chapter 36. So chapter 36, talking about time and space for technology, what they're really looking at is, do you understand the reality of your world and these concepts of time and space? And they do mean quite literally the physical space around you, the room that you're in, for example. Um, and when they're talking about technology and time and space, they're talking about how the technology that has come into our possession over the years impacts our understanding of those realities. Like, do you have a concept of time? Do you understand your physical space that is around you? And how does technology impact your understanding of those things? Again, a lot of Unit 3 has had some really interesting questions and things to think about given our circumstances in distance education and virtual learning. So we think about it now, as far as time's concerned, we used to meet at a specific time and that was considered our class, versus now class kind of just happens whenever is most convenient for you. And it definitely doesn't happen 90 minutes at a time anymore. And then space, again, we used to be in the physical school building and that was what dictated the educational environment. But now your space is more digital because your learning is happening online. Um, so just some surreal kind of aspects going on here with what we what we're learning, what we're reading about, and what we've got going on. So going into the notes, technology, time, and space returns to, again, McClelland's thought that technology defines how we collectively understand time and space. Whether it be the technology is the clock on the wall or the technology is the building that we're sitting in, um, technology has a direct impact on our understanding of time and space around us. Now, what that understanding specifically is may vary person to person and case by case. So James Carey is one of the leading names in this particular segment, and he researched technology in terms of the telegraph. So telegraph, a bit of ancient material here, but it was one of the first pieces of communication that allowed us to transmit information over a great distance in a very small amount of time. And so because of the telegraph, the speed at which information could travel was changed, and therefore it changed the world. It was no longer a matter of, I have this piece of information, it's going to take me days, weeks, or months to get this information to the correct person. Now it's a matter of, let me get to the nearest telegraph, and that message is now there in minutes, maybe hours, which is a pretty big deal, especially when you consider like what types of information people might be sending, and how that information might impact somebody else's life or well-being. And according to Carey, the telegraph was one of the pivotal pieces of information leading to standardized time zones. Again, that was because look at how quickly information could now change hands, and what that meant for the world. So after Jim Carey and his research on technology, we have Manuel Castells. Manuel Castells argued that technology such as the telegraph and computer created space of flows and timeless time. And what this meant was that space was fluid and there was no specific confined entity that dictated what space was. And timeless time, the idea that time was now relative and that it really didn't matter, because technology such as the telegraph and computer gave way to information being so easily accessible and quickly accessible at that. And so when he said all of this, he also claimed that because of something like a computer and because of the space of flows and timeless time, globalization wasn't real either. And that globalization really should be termed virtualization, because it wasn't so much the fact that the world was unifying and that all of these different aspects of the world were now existing in other places, but it was the idea that they were virtually there. It was the idea that it was perceived notions of interconnectedness and international pieces working together, but that things weren't really there because that's not where they existed. Um, and this was a huge topic of conversation, and it may be something you discuss and think about in your own reading and understanding of the chapter. Do you feel like globalization is real, or should we coin this term virtualization instead? So technology gave way to real-time impacts on social and cultural infrastructures. Basically, that's the gist of computers and telegraphs. Um, Real-time impacts. Here's what's really going on in the world right here, right now, because this information can now change hands so quickly. Um, on the dark side of these things, because with every piece of good technology, there can be the potential for something to go wrong. The downside is that we could essentially create an information bomb that would, if it were to be set off, um, the entire system will collapse. You know, it's this idea that if information gets leaked out to the wrong person, or if inaccurate information surfaces and it catches fire with people, that's potentially dangerous and very harmful for many people. And this was a very real reality because computer systems use software which um, is capable of making decisions based on real time information. So it's programmed essentially, if this happens, do this, etc. And Adrian McKenzie called this a secondary agency because, not unlike humans, computers and software programs are able to make decisions and create cause and effects. And so these ideas of software are continually studied by Rob Kitchen and Martin Dodge, in order to help them understand how they impact our contemporary world. So this is an ongoing idea, that between technology, time, and space, the immediate access to information, and the potential hazards or dangers associated with software systems, we have a lot going on. We have a lot to consider in our world today. Um, and so that's your chapter on technology, time, and space. Um, Again, what you're looking at and what you're considering is, how does technology, pen, paper, mass printing resources, computers, cell phones, tablets, and Apple Watches, how do they impact our understanding of time as a construct, and space, as in our physical world that exists around us? So make sure you have your definitions for your key terms. Make sure you respond to your discussion questions. Your test is on Thursday, April 9th. Have a good day.